Good morning, Eagles. We've been talking to our colleagues here at Lakes. We've been paying attention to discussions on teacher social media groups. The consensus is in. Teaching in 2021 is hard, even harder than it was in 2020. There's a lot of factors influencing this, but the one we're addressing today is student grit and resilience. When learning gets tough, we're noticing a lot of our kids are wanting to nope out. We're noticing a lot of avoidant behaviors, and we're getting a lot of pushback. So what's a teacher to do? We've spent a lot of time in the past few years talking about relationship building. In her famous TED Talk, Every Kid Needs a Champion, educational legend Dr. Rita Pierson observed that kids don't learn from people they don't like. Knowing this, we built really great relationships with our kids. We've spent a lot of time talking to them, we've been showing them that we care about them as humans, we've shown them that we're interested in them and their passions and their dreams, and some of them are still ready to throw in the towel when they're not immediately successful at a new skill or they feel like there's too much content to learn. It's because we miss the second part of the equation. The second part is that kids don't always try for people they don't believe have high expectations for them. Now, I know what you're thinking. Of course you have high expectations for your kids. But my question to you is, how do you demonstrate this to your students in a way that shows them that not only are your expectations high for all of them, but those expectations are achievable, that the effort is worth it, and that you're there to support them every step of the way? In other words, are you a warm demander? In her article, The Warm Demander, How to Raise Expectations and Have Students Rise to Meet Them, Angela Watson describes being a warm demander as an equity approach, grounded in showing students that you care and refusing to give up on their achievement. Watson goes on to say that being a warm demander is about mutual respect and making it clear from your tone and body language that student effort is non-negotiable and that you believe in students' ability to succeed. A warm demander builds trust in relationships by listening to kids and affirming them. Yet, a teacher who takes the warm demander stance also pushes kids and doesn't allow them to settle for less than what they're capable of. Because of all the amazing work you've done on SEL and making sure your students feel like they belong in your classroom, I'm willing to bet you've got the warm part down. What about the second part? Are you willing and able to demand that your students meet the challenges that you set forth for them? And how exactly do you do that? Watson describes this as not letting kids off the hook. For example, when you ask a student a question, you smile, and you give wait time. And if that student responds with, "Oh, I don't know," or struggles to provide an answer, you coach them through it. Maybe you start with a smaller question to get them started, like, "Well, what's our first step?" And then you keep working with a student until they can get to the end of the question. Watson also suggests letting a student phone a friend, especially for a multi-step question, so that way they're not absolved from responsibility of answering the question, but they have a little bit of autonomy in how they get to the end. Watson goes on to state that providing the support students need to be successful is a major component of being a warm demander. You're not just believing that kids can be successful or telling them that failure is not an option. You're noticing what they need to meet the standards and coming alongside them to offer resources and different approaches to the learning, which will help. Another key facet to being a warm demander is not just coaching a student to success, but also celebrating mistakes as a way to learn. In his article, The Warm Demander, An Equity Approach, Matt Alexander encourages teachers to create a classroom culture in which mistakes are encouraged because mistakes lead to growth. If you normalize that we're all going to stumble along the way, the path doesn't seem quite so arduous. Being a warm demander also extends beyond calling on kids in class. You can and should use this approach across your expectations. It's okay to extend grace, that's part of the warmth part, but it's also okay to let students know when something's unacceptable because you're holding them to high standards. Was that assignment supposed to be typed, 12-point font, double-spaced, and printed when they got to class? It's okay to politely and gently refuse to accept that hastily handwritten on spiral paper assignment, restate what the expectation was, and allow the student to hand it in the next day. And you might want to consider not deducting points for that. So Eagles, this first semester is quickly coming to a close. We encourage you to think about how you establish norms in your classrooms next semester. Will you be a warm demander? We'd love to hear if this pushes you to go there with your kids. Drop by C235A and chat with us. Until next time, Eagles, we'll see you in the tea room.